Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Ladd, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 13. So, we've had an idea. There's three of us who present this podcast, and you might not have a clue about any of us, or one of us, or two of us, or all of us, or whatever. But, you know, why should you listen to us? Who are we? That's what it's going to be about today. And we're going to focus on one person in particular, which is going to be Mr. Paul Bassett, who's down there. Say hi, Paul.
Hey, I hope it's not going to be a character assassination.
No, you're going to lead the way, mate. You can talk about whatever you like.
Oh,
also,
okay.
Sorry.
Okay, well, I can assassinate my own character.
Sorry, it's been a while since I've introduced this as well. I'm Peter, by the way. And to my right or left, I don't know which way it is these days, is James St. Pierre over there. Say hi, James.
Hi, James.
Come on, we might have to start this again. You know, I've screwed that right up, haven't I? But anyway, there you go. I'm out of practice. Yeah, so we just thought it would be interesting to talk about our stories, not all in one. We'll do this interspersed through like interviews and stuff like that, and we'll talk about different issues. But today we're going to focus on Mr. Paul Bassett, where he came from, because he wasn't always in the fitness industry, as he's alluded to before. And yeah, so it's going to be a bit of a, again, free-flowing conversation. If you've got any questions to ask about Paul or ask Paul specifically, feel free to get involved. But yeah, so we'll get started. So Paul, where did it all begin? A little open question for you. No, like it's because it's up to you. I can ask you something specific, but you know, it's your journey. Where did you start? How did you get here? Presenting the best podcast.
Parents met in Birmingham.
Yeah. Okay. Back in the 60s, your parents.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it's worth talking about where I am now, which is I run a personal training business in London, in Putney, and we have both a studio and an online business. There's myself and three other trainers, all of which super qualified and great. I'm very lucky to have a really good team, and they service our clients who train both in person, online. Most of them come because they want weight loss. They've struggled with their health for many years, or they don't know how to fit it in. And I've kind of gravitated towards servicing professionals who are time poor, because as I'll probably slowly reveal, that was kind of my background, and it seemed the natural starting point when I ran my business that I would try and provide solutions for people who struggled with similar things that I did. I also run, I suppose on the side, but it's actually a decent part of my business, which is the Amazing 12. So some people may have known this as a 12-week body transformation program. That was designed by Paul Bassett. We also run that, so we have multiple waves going through the year, and we just want to be a centre of excellence really in the local area and expose people to very, very well thought out modalities in terms of training, where there's an approach that focuses on the individual and their movement quality. And then we want to get people very strong. It tends to be the fastest route to succeed for someone who's only got a couple of hours to spare each week. So we focus on strength, and then obviously support them with their nutrition and support them actually a lot of the time with the kind of integrating it into a very busy life, which is the biggest struggle. It's not whether or not they got the perfect kettlebell swing. It's often, how do I organize my Outlook calendar? Yeah, so, and most of my clients are over 30, up to the ages of 65 generally. Yeah, most are in Putney, but I'm actually expanding to kind of the whole of London, because I've got an online business, and, you know, with the studios not open at the moment, so why not? You know, we'll see how that goes. But it's obviously an opportunity. So that's where I'm at.
Can I ask, Paul, what were you doing before moving into this industry, and what was it that attracted you, or what was the catalyst for you to kind of move in this direction, and when did that happen? Just so we got some, some.
When did I start my business? I started kind of training people around 2015, so I'm relatively new in a way. I mean, compared to a lot of people who've got a lot of time under their belt when it comes to being a trainer. Really, where my time under my belt comes is working with people. So I've spent many years either managing individuals in terms of musicians who I used to work with, and then working as in sales teams in other industries. And I took charge of my health many years ago, and it just became a burning desire and an all-consuming thing in my kind of as a hobby, but also as a kind of something that I felt compelled to do, that eventually started pushing, squeezing out every other area of my life, and became the kind of sole focus. And then I got made redundant in the job, and it made sense to just suddenly jump, become a personal trainer for some crazy reason. But I've not looked back. It's been one of the best decisions I've ever made. It's not been without its stresses and strains, but it's when you've suddenly released your body of a lot of pain, and you've started seeing the fruits of your labor, you kind of become a bit evangelical. And I've certainly been through that phase where you're like, you just need to do this, and everything will be fine. And then you start trying, you get a bit preachy at first, and then eventually soften a bit and go, you know what, maybe I don't need that kind of approach. But I still have a very, very strong desire to not only educate myself, but kind of spread the word on what it is to actually train effectively, where you don't have to beat yourself up, and you can enjoy it, and you can feel a sense of fulfillment in other areas of your life because of it.
Were you surprised? I mean, that's very similar to mine. We'll talk about me in the future, obviously, but that's very similar to mine. And were you surprised that when you were like, right, okay, I'll become a trainer? And were you surprised? Number one, were you surprised at how hard it is to be a trainer? And number two, were you surprised that everyone didn't think the same as you when you were like, well, if you're in pain and you're tired and you're out of shape and all that, here's all you need to do. It's that simple. Like you say, you get evangelical about it. Like, I've seen the light. Why can't you? Yeah. All I need to do is show you the light, and you'll do it. And then it's like, people are like, nah, I've got lots of other things going on in my life, so that is way down the list. Yeah. Were you surprised at that? Because I was.
Well, that's the thing. You see, I've very, very, in quite a, almost kind of like epiphany, found the reason why. And it was very dry. It drove me. I was like, oh, that's where I'm going. I'm going in that direction. Let's find every piece of information. I'm so excited about everything I read. And then you get into the reality of training people, and they're like, yeah, I've got an hour. I want to get a six pack, or I want to do this, or I want to do, and they're not thinking beyond the session, And then sometimes you're like, well, why would you not do that? Why would you not? And it is a kind of a learning curve, and I've certainly experimented. I mean, that's the one thing I like about being a trainer and my own boss, is I get to experiment a lot, and it's been good to work in bigger businesses, because you've got to make money in bigger businesses. You can't just come up with crazy program plans and not make any money, because you get out of business very quickly. But as a trainer, I got to experiment a lot, and I've worked out. And I'm still working out, but I've worked out kind of what works and what most people respond to. And it's not always what you think. So it's, I thought, oh, right, everyone's going to love technique on deadlift. And some people just don't care. They don't care that the different grips and the different bars you're using and all that stuff. They've just got a bit of back pain that they want to sort, and they want to lose 10 pounds, But if you can make it fun and you can introduce them to things, then maybe it will gain its own momentum.
So I suppose that comes from like when people are just like, well, I want you to train like I train. And people are like, well, I don't necessarily want that. And it's like, well, okay, and you've got to get over that, haven't you? Because that's something that happens in the beginning as well, I think. You've got to get over that and go like, okay, I'll train you for what you want. What result do you want? And I'll get you that.
Yeah.
So how, like, what sort of demographic are you working with? What's like, I mean, obviously you've got the Amazing 12, which is kind of a body transformation thing, but not everybody wants that. And some people just want to, be able to move better and have joints that don't hurt. So how do you manage that?
I mean, probably similar to you guys. I mean, most people who get into their 30s are no longer spending money on trying to pull someone, they're not, they've got families, a lot of expendable income of someone in their 20s is going on Ibiza trips and maybe saving up for the first house or just paying the rent, not really thinking about personal training. I rarely get any inquiries, anyone below 30. So most people they've settled into a professional life. They either have families or that they have kids that have left home, or they've come over to the country, they've settled down, they're creating a new life. I mean, you've got a lot of people from around the world in London. And so a lot of my client base is South African, Eastern European, some Australians, Irish, you name it, people from India, people from Scandinavia, I've got people all over the place. And they're all very high achievers in some way. So they may run their own business, or they work, they work in the NHS, they're doctors, they're heads of departments, they're very time poor people who know that they need to be healthy. And some of them have attended to it and want to do it better. And some have never attended to their health and realize they've got to play catch up. And I then try and make it as simple as possible for them to succeed without giving them too much to do, not too much pressure on their timetable, and then make sure that time that they give me is very, very well spent. And then the second part of it is just the sheer amount of accountability. So once they've got the training, once they've got the nutrition, it's like, how do we make it stick? And how do I keep it important to you? And they could stay with me for 3 months, 2 years, 3 years, or sometimes just 1 month. But it's going where they want and making sure that we have the course corrections necessary to keep them moving forwards, really.
So just a practical question, because it's quite interesting. So what age were you when you sort of moved from the kind of the corporate world and the previous work you were doing to actually, right, I'm going to become a trainer and run my own business? Was it late 30s around? I was
35. I'm 41 now.
Yeah.
35. Yeah.
Because there's quite a few people that I know who I train, and probably you guys as well, who you meet people, and I think it's actually not uncommon now for people to maybe get into their mid 30s or their 40s and then have this kind of career change, where they think, actually, I don't want to sit behind a desk for the rest of my life doing something for someone else. I want to, like you said, you enjoyed looking after yourself. You enjoyed learning about how to be more healthy and more fit and feeling better. And then you almost wanted to help other people feel the same as you. What was the first stage with you in terms of, what was the first qualification you did? What was your entry into the industry? Which is where many people will be kind of moving at the moment as well.
Well, the danger with passion is that it only gets you so far. When you're passionate about something, I'm going to become a personal trainer. And it became I was quite aware very early on that wasn't going to be the thing that carried me through, because I knew that there was people who were more skilled than me, stronger than me, faster than me, had been doing it longer than me. So it was about, how do I utilize my career capital, really, which is what I've been doing years before, which has always either been in sales in some way and people management. And so I used to look after very high value individuals in the music industry, and they would be quite demanding. And you were also dealing with people's hopes and dreams and aspirations, whether they're 18 years old or more seasoned performers, and you would be trying to deal with disappointment, trying to drum up kind of motivation to do things, put them in touch with people who are going to help them achieve their goals. And so it became very much about connecting the dots and making sure that person was always moving forwards. And at the time, it's just something I did, but it was, looking back now, it's kind of exactly what I do now, and the people I work with are high value individuals. They have invested a lot of time in their careers, and they have certain expectations of what they want from life, and they need to be talked to in a particular way. They need to be understood in a particular way. You can't be a knuckle brain. You have to be able to understand the complexities of their lives. And so a lot of what I did after when I decided to start was, I had some basic qualifications in which set me up in my general movement philosophy and my general approach to training, which is where I met you guys. So the kettlebell certification with the SMK, which James Breeze ran, who we interviewed last week, and that's where I met you guys. And I was inspired by so many people who just knew what they just had such a high level of thinking and a high level of performance. They were really good at communicating that as well, so they made it very simple. And I knew that I needed a good nutrition qualification. So obviously I did my PT level 3 and stuff like that. But really, it's most of my knowledge has come through either trying things or networking and meeting people with very high levels of ability, and then trying to translate that in some way and communicate that to other people. And that's really where a lot of my time is spent, is trying to I spend a lot of my education on marketing and business mentoring, because it's all up here, and I sometimes struggle to get it out in a coherent manner, and sometimes having someone there who just says, hey, this is how you need to say to someone, this is the funnel that you need to put that energy, and that can make a big difference to the experience of the client.
So what have you found? Obviously this year has been challenging for many people for many different reasons. But I think probably people running their own business is particularly challenging for various reasons. But how have you you kind of touched on, I suppose, the online stuff? But how are you kind of dealing with this year, and how are you navigating your way through as a business owner?
Yeah, it's mentally it's tough, I mean, that's the biggest thing is trying to stay focused, because in a way, I know my community is not the be all and end all of anyone's week, but it is a major part of people's perception of themselves and how they handle things. And we provide a consistency for people. And like you two, you've got to be leaders of your community, and you've got to lead by example. And so I've had to be very proactive. I think this year it's been defined by being very proactive, because on one hand, I'm reacting to whatever the government's throwing at us and the changes in how people train, what can be open, what's not. But initially, you're kind of scared, because you're like, how I didn't expect this. I don't know what to do. I've never encountered this. And the first few weeks, I was just like, nothing's working. Pulled all my ads, pulled everything, just trying to keep the head above water. And then all of a sudden, it was like, well, I've got to sell my way out of this. I've got to do something. I've got to put out a positive message, not only for my clients, but also for myself, because I need it. I need it, because it's a big part. It's not just my business. It's kind of like an expression of my general sense of being.
Yes, it's kind of it's wrapped up. Your identity, isn't it? Really within within the business, and your personal philosophies and the way you live your life is part of that business, and a reflection of that. The business is a reflection of you and your life, isn't it? Yeah, definitely.
It's one of the reasons I set my own business up, because I didn't want external factors. Maybe it's me being a bit. No, it's not me being a control freak. It's just that I never really felt in the past. I'd never really latched onto something and given it everything. Even when I was in the music industry, I loved it. It was great. It was fun. It was exciting. But I really didn't achieve what I could have. And when I moved into publishing, again, I sat there behind a desk, and I just didn't connect in the way that if I put half as much effort into my work when I was working at the publisher as I do now, I would have rocketed through things, because, but I didn't, and I was left in this kind of limbo period. And then this spark went off, and I was like, right, I've got to run my own business. I've got to do this. And coronavirus takes away that autonomy initially. And you're like, I've not got control. I don't have control of my destiny, but actually you do. And that's been the biggest learning curve. And it's still one I'm going through, because I still have my down days. You should have seen me yesterday. I had 3 membership cancellations, and I was like, it is.
I'm laughing at that. I'm laughing at the the situation of that. If you know
Yeah,
what I mean.
it's tough, and you go up and down. It's like supporting a football team, you're up and down.
So, right, you've just said it. You've just said a thing there. You could have been like, you could have been a high flyer in what you were doing. You were in two different industries by the sounds of it. A high flyer in either one of those, but you weren't.
No,
because you
didn't. I didn't try as hard as I could have. I don't think. Looking back, I didn't work that hard.
So why? Why didn't you work? Like, well, I'm exactly the same. Why didn't you? Because you had the opportunity. So why didn't you? And that's not like I'm not challenging you. Like, why didn't you do that? I mean, like, there's going to be
a reason why
you do now. Yeah, I'm trying to just. I said at the beginning we weren't going to destroy you, but like,
Yeah.
But no. So why? Like this. What's the reason? Because like obviously, you could have been. So why not?
I don't know what it's kind of like you got this. I think in the end, what I like about fitness is that, I mean, I suppose I'm quite happy in my own company for quite long periods of time, and I think the current business I have, I can generate change myself. I can generate my own income. I can come up with ideas. I can run with them. I can explore them. I have agency, and a lot of the frustration I found in the past was that I lacked a sense of. Firstly, I think my passion wasn't as deep as I thought it was with some of those things. I think, I'm going to love this. This is going to be great, and I struggled to latch onto something. Nothing came that easy, which is fine. We all got to work for things, but there wasn't enough passion there to pull me through. I think I was more attracted by the idea of it than the actual doing of it. And a lot of the time I had to rely on other people to make decisions. So like when I was working with musicians, you spend your heart and soul coming up with great music or whatever, and then you give it out to the world, and then nothing would happen. Someone would say, no, that's not for me, and they kill a project dead. We'd work with something for 2 years, and then all of a sudden they said, we're pulling the funding, and it's gone. And you're kind of like, there's this lock. I struggled with a sense of control over the circumstances. I felt like I was reliant on too many chaotic factors, and I didn't like that. And whereas now there are chaotic factors like coronavirus, but I have like the sense of control and agency to be able to react to them and to generate passion and generate and all those things I can do, because I think I've got the spark and I know why I'm doing it. I've not lost that, and I'm excited about training myself as I ever was. I'm excited with every new client. I never get bored of working with someone. I don't hear the same story and go, oh, not that story again. I find people infinitely interesting, and the community's built enough momentum that it's really positive. And I wasn't surrounded by very positive industries. They were bitchy or like it's quite cutthroat, the music industry, and there were people you talk to and you'd be talking to them in one way and they'd be saying la 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 la, and then you'd be in a meeting and they go completely off track and commit to something else that you hadn't agreed right in front of you, and you'd be like, okay, so I don't trust this person at all. And then in the publishing industry, it was all quite nice, but there was a kind of everyone was kind of out for themselves, and I kind of like there's this kind of sense like, well, aren't we in it together? We're all here to help you, and I'm here to help you, and you're here to have fun with me, and we're kind of like, that's kind of energizing. People are there to have fun,
I mean, it's like that in most industries, and it's still like that in the fitness industry, but at least in this industry where you are, if you're self-employed in that, you've got the ability to associate with who you want to associate with. And if somebody doesn't gel with you or whatever, or you don't gel with them, you can just say, right, it's not going to work. And that's what's really good. Whereas in that sort of situation, like you've just been saying, you have to find a way to work. I was going to say work with these people. Yeah. It sounds like but work with people who you don't necessarily want to work with, and you don't necessarily, I'm not going to say but get on with or respect or whatever, but you've still got to do it. You're in that situation.
I was trying to manipulate things for my own ends in those industries. I was trying to not manipulate people, but I was trying to play a game. a game that I didn't really believe in, you know. And eventually, just like I lost passion for it, particularly as the bottom fell out of the music industry. I was like, there's got to be something else. So I'm more interested in something else. And then I flitted about and ended up in publishing. And I was just like, I did that for 4 or 5 years, and it just wasn't there. And then read Born to Run, the book, and I was like, this is why my knees hurt, you know.
I read that years ago myself as well. That was a massive turning point for me, with barefoot running and vitamins and all that sort of stuff, which was great. Do you find as well, I was gonna say, as a kind of, as we all run our own businesses as well, that your kind of day or your week as such, probably much the same as mine, is so varied, or can be so varied, that you're wearing so many different hats all the time, aren't you? Whereby, like you mentioned, you're trying to look at maybe marketing, and then you've also got a facility to manage, and you've got a team to manage, and you've got members to look after, and you've got communication, and you've got social media, and you've got programming and your own training, and so it's such a varied week, isn't it? You never really get an opportunity to get bored, do you? That's
no, not at all. No, I mean, you're kind of building the plane as you fly it, so it's particularly, even if you've got a mature business. I mean, your business as it stands has been what, 11, 12 years, something like 10
13 years now.
13 years, so and you're still finding that it's just kind of evolving and fresh, because yes, you get new people in who come in with different perspectives, or like coronavirus throws a curveball and your business has to react to that. But also, I think all of our businesses are tied up with personal discovery as well. And I kind of like that. If I feed off, my business kind of throws things to me that I just would never encounter in other industries. Running my own business just throws things that I've just got to, I always said before coronavirus, every 6 months I've got something big I need to navigate. There's been a lot this year to navigate, but that makes me think outside the box, and I liked the idea that I could rise to the challenge and create something successful off my own back, and then involve loads of really cool people who want to hang out with and I want to learn from, because like trainers I work with are just great. They're all they're all kettlebell instructors. They have backgrounds in everything from powerlifting through to CrossFit and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then I get an opportunity to hang out with you guys, and it's nice to be in that surrounded by like people who think like exciting thoughts rather than like negative chitter chatter that I was finding from office politics, which was, I don't do office politics very well. It's like I don't like EastEnders. It stresses me out. Anything that's too like that, it just stresses me out. And so I kind of like creating quite a positive ideas environment,
And I think we spoke about it. This is, like we said, this is week 13 that we've been doing this now, and we've spoke about the this year and as a kind of a macro kind of theme, and the first lockdown and this lockdown. But when you actually think about, there's so much positives that's come from this period, that things, we've started this podcast up, amongst all of that, all of us, I think, have moved more, or certainly gained more knowledge and moved more into kind of the online space as well, and learning more about that, and just ways of looking after the communities that we look after individually, using different ways where you're not maybe face to face. So there's so much that we have learned from this year, isn't there, that we can take on, and that will make all of our businesses, and hopefully lots of our listeners as well, more resilient and more flexible and more adaptable as we move forwards, which will be positive when we come out the end of this thing. So
that's it, exactly. And it's I mean, it's weird because the year before, in 2020 January, there was kind of like, there's no mist in front of me. I could see my next 6 months or 8 months or whatever, and now there's this fog, and I do struggle with that. Like when are we even coming out of this? What am I going to be doing in January? And I'm having to make peace with uncomfortable scenarios, and I think it's probably good for me long term. It's uncomfortable, but like there is opportunity. I mean, I've spent more time with my kids. realized I might not have to work as many hours as I do. I mean, I do ridiculous number of hours, but there is the opportunity, because I've built such a great team that I can offload more to them. Obviously, I would like no interruption in terms of my revenue, but what I do know is that I built the trust with them. The clients trust them. I can step back. It means I can keep my hand in the training because I love that, but I can start thinking bigger. Whereas before I was on a bit of a treadmill doing too many hours and not being able to see some of the bigger picture. And hopefully I'll be able to kind of do some bigger picture thinking at the moment. And obviously I've been training and all that stuff. So there's stuff there to work with.
Yeah. So it's a very difficult question to kind of ask, but because of the lack of, like you say, the lack of clarity, and certainly in England, there's talk of, moving to a new phase on sort of like the 3rd of December, but we don't quite know if that is going to happen or to what extent, and different places in the country. So we don't really have clarity what's going to happen. But what's your, I suppose your goals is maybe a bit too specific, but what's your kind of theme or your direction of movement over the next 6 months? What is it that you're focusing on for the next sort of 6 months?
I think it's my online business.
Apart from staying afloat.
Yeah. It's trying to live hand to mouth. No, I mean, I've got to shore the business up in multiple areas really. I don't think in the next 6 months I'm going to be suddenly allowed to run the gym as I did in 2019, because we're going to have limitations on the number of people we have. The in-person training, because I don't have a big space. I have a great space. It's not a big space though. The in-person training will probably have to specialize a little bit onto certain things. I'm thinking of specializing in certain areas and focusing on particular areas of growth. Things like your Tactical Strength Challenge are a good example of where people are coming in and you're taking them to a particular end. And I think if you're training in person, you do have the luxury of using equipment, and therefore with that equipment, you can be periodized in the way you train people. I think it's got to be a more premium offer, because we can train less people, and there's less opportunity for people to train. So if they get space in the in-person, it's going to mean something quite significant. My online business has got to grow. I'm looking to target the whole of London as opposed to just 3-mile radius around my business, because I don't have any limitations on floor space, and we have a really good system of the way we're training people. The results are great. I had a lady recently just lose just under 7 kilos in the last 3.5 weeks on the 28-day challenge, and that was all done online. And it's exactly the same results you get if she's training in person. I won't be surprised if it's probably better, because she's more likely to turn up. And then obviously I've got the Amazing 12, and that's part of the in-person training. It's kind of a level up program, which allows people to go for a very specific kind of body composition result and strength result. And I suppose that's what I'm going to have to do, is like the in-person training has got to be very targeted. Specific people will respond to that, but people who are wanting to just get fit and healthy, they will need a more flexible approach, and therefore that's where the online training comes in. And I want to shore my business up around that and try and add as much value in the back end. So as many video tutorials, loads of resources, massive community. But I've just got to work out how to scale that really, which is the big challenge at the moment. It's weird. It's a moment I'm still feeling things out. As you can gather, it's not particularly well thought out yet. Make loads of money.
But that's where it needs to start.
Next year.
Yeah.
Next year we'll be millionaires.
But that's where it needs to start, isn't it? Just with these broad ideas, and then you can kind of zero down and get a bit more focused on them. What about with your own training at the moment? What are you kind of working on, or where does your training sort of sit at the moment with the things that you're working on yourself?
Well, you've seen the finger, haven't you? So they're not doing much at the moment. No, I'm actually just doing a lot of legs because I've hurt my finger. But as you know, I've spoken about in the past, working with Paul McElroy. So Paul McElroy designed the Amazing 12. Is a guy who thinks very differently about everything, really. And in terms of a strength coach, he's kind of the coach's coach. So a lot of the people who work with him are other coaches. I think that's mainly who he trains. And he runs the Amazing 12, which is a system of getting results in 12 weeks, which is extremely effective. But it does take some commitment from any individual, but kind of the end is certain, which I like. I like certainty. So I approached Paul because I was lacking any direction, and I needed, like anyone, we all need a bit of help. And I was thinking, well, he knows what he's doing. So I'll have a go with him. And then I came to him because I said I wanted to do 24 presses in one go with one arm with the 24 kilo, which I haven't tried yet. Maybe I should. And then eventually he kind of said, well, why don't you go into kettlebell sport? And I realized actually how weak I was at the beginning. I've been very good at working through a lot of my injuries that I'd had for years and years and years, but I'd never really focused on performance in any way. And so it's been a bit of a baptism of fire focusing on performance, but it's been really good, pushing me forwards. I mean, it's a 5-day-a-week training. Each week I look at the things I've got to do, and I kind of know what's coming, which is good and bad. And I'm kind of compelled to do it, firstly, because I kind of want to do it. And secondly, I know Paul's expecting a video at the end of every session of the last set of everything. So, so we're working on general strength and conditioning just to make me stronger. And then kettlebell sport twice a week, just to push that. And that's the main focus, really. And I think at some point, something competitive.
Will you do you think like a kind of a grassroots kind of kettlebell sport type thing first, like a 5-minute kind of thing, or will you go?
I think probably a full 10 minutes. I think. Yeah. I mean, 5 minutes. I've kind of got to the point now where 5 minutes is pretty easy. It's quite difficult to navigate exactly all the different groups of kettlebell sport associations and the weight categories. So there's not much information. It's a very niche sport. You can definitely tell that it's got some way to go before people actually understand what the hell it's about. But yeah, I think I definitely would like to try. I mean, I've injured my finger at the moment, so I feel a bit kind of, I feel a bit kind of jittery that I can't do what I normally do. But I think I probably could do something. I probably do jerks with 220s for 10 minutes. I think I've never done. See, Paul doesn't really ever train to the full 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I think his idea is why waste energy on maxing out when you could be making progress. So there's a bit of an interlude while my finger heals, but I think we'll probably, who knows what he's got in mind.
You could just do 10 minutes on one arm.
Well, I did 4 minutes today with the 6. I mean, I'm doing it quite light at the moment because of my hands, but I could do it in one arm. I could do 5 minutes in one arm.
Yeah.
Not half an hour like Tracy.
You'll end up looking like that German fella, the arm wrestling guy. Have you seen him with one massive? He's got one huge arm.
You see my biceps. I definitely will never have a massive arm.
You can search for that, by the way, and find him. It's hilarious.
I think it makes sense that I do kettlebell sport because I'm never going to be stacked.
Yeah.
It's an excuse, and I'm sure that Paul would say, Paul, you're just not training right. But I don't pack on muscle like other people. I'm quite endurance based, and I'm fine with that. I've learned to live with it.
Doesn't make you a bad person.
It doesn't make me a bad person. No. But I remember turning up with you guys.
That's one of Fabio's, isn't it? Did he say that?
Yeah, you're still a good person.
Yeah.
I turned up to this kettlebell cert with you guys years ago. I was just like, oh my God, everyone looks so strong and fit, So
then you watch everyone turn into dribbling wrecks after trying to do stuff. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I remember the swing test and seeing people just gassing out. I mean, they all did it, but it was just like.
Was that was the 10 minutes?
My first.
Yeah.
Sorry?
That was the 10 minutes with the 32, wasn't it? The one hand. Yeah. Yeah.
My first snatch test, five minutes with a 24 in 100. I weighed 63 kilos at the time. So I wouldn't even have to do it with it. Like if I weighed that now, you'd have to do it with a 20. So I weighed 63 kilos at the time. And there was some massive like guys over here who were basically just trying to muscle it up, and they just gassed out. I managed to do it. I was knackered, but I managed to do it. And these guys like, didn't make it. And I was like, and that's when I started to realize, that was 6 years ago, actually. And that's when I started to realize, like, it's not about being massive. It's about being strong and knowing how to move and all that.
Anyway, it's quite different. Kettlebell sport, I've had to relearn everything.
Yeah.
All the techniques different, breathing technique, trying to relax in swings as opposed to explode and all that, and it actually becomes more natural to me because I'm probably naturally lazy when it comes to strength training. It's reteaching the movement patterns to myself, which I got ingrained in a different way. But it's been fun,
Excellent.
Yeah.
So if people wanted to get to know you more and to follow you more, I mean, obviously we do the Health Oddity podcast every week, the three of us, but how can people maybe connect with you as an individual, Paul, and keep an eye on what you're doing and find out more about you?
Usually I like a first date in a restaurant. Handle it. They can contact me via the website, which is houndsofhealth.co.uk. You'll see all the different programs we have. Obviously, there's a Facebook group, which is just the Hounds of Health Facebook. And I actually just started something called the Hounds of Health Academy, which is just a free Facebook group, which is literally just being launched today. So it's just a way of kind of reaching out to some more people, just creating a free resource that people can kind of just be part of a group and post things, ask questions, and I'll just be posting random things about different things, not boring things like how much orange juice should you have a day, like just trying to talking about kind of ideas and doing some videos and stuff like that, and just creating an environment where people feel like they can ask a question that maybe they didn't know where to ask. And
more interesting things like how many beers can you drink and still lose weight? That sort of thing.
How many is it?
Hey, how much orange juice should you have in a day?
No, it depends.
Depends whether it's freshly squeezed or out of a bottle, doesn't it?
It's difficult to know what people respond to because I was on a group recently. I'm part of lots of different groups, and there was loads of pace. You see personal trainers posting all the time in groups, and you get things. People post different things like, which one should you eat? Should you eat this or this or this? Which is which has less sugar, or which has more, which is healthier? And I'm not really interested in that. You can eat what you want, but so what I want to do with the group is have something that's more going to touch something in you, something that's going to get your fire going rather than just something that tells you some more information. We all got enough information.
Definitely. Fantastic. Mr. Lant, do you want to wrap up and
I don't know what to say at the end of that. It was,
it was interesting.
It's good. It is. It's good to hear, like, just sort of like your view on things and what have you. I mean, we all talk about our little views on things throughout each podcast with guests and what have you. But it's good to have like just a specific focus on one of us, just to get your philosophies and all that sort of stuff. So I think the biggest thing from that I would take from what you've said is, passion for something. You've got the passion for something, but it has to be, when people say like, build your own business around a thing that you have passion for, and then you'll never work a day in your life and all that. And it's like, yeah, but you can lose that passion immediately or very quickly if you make it your livelihood. So you've got to have some sort of it's got to stay. And it doesn't stay by just having that passion. You've got to go and explore it and find new ideas and all of that and learn new things, which is what you've been talking about, right? And it is one of those things, like pretty much everything. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know and that you need to know. And it's just a continual cycle. And that's where you get to a point like you said, I think this is what I got from it. Like in the publishing and in the others, in working with bands and stuff like that, I get to a point then you go, my passion doesn't stretch to actually go and learn what I need to know because I can't be bothered. Whereas with this, it's like I want to know that, and then it'll take you somewhere else and go, that's interesting. Now I want to know that. How do I find out? Who do I need to go and speak to or learn from? Who do I need to get in a room with to go and learn that? So that's what I've got it from, and that's what I would say. Hopefully, you guys listening will get from this, and it's like it doesn't matter what it is, but let's take getting fitter, because that's what this is about, fitter and healthier. Let's take that as an example, and it's all well and good, and you can all go and try and do it yourself, and get the results you want, and that's cool. But if you're not, it's good to find someone who has that passion and can find it in you as well, because if it's there, it'll only go so far, and that's where you need to feed it. I think.
I only did what I had to do to survive in previous jobs. I only did what I needed to do just to get by.
Yeah.
Whereas now I do much more than that,
Yeah, cool. Yeah. We love it. Right then, we're done. We're all done. So, James, say ta-ta.
Ta-ta.
Hey, Mr. Paul Bassett, thank you very much. Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from him, me, him, and all that. And yes, we appreciate you all. Send us any questions or anything. Give us some feedback. And we'll speak to you on the next one. Ta-ra!
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett, and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.